HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network. Heritage Radio Network is food radio supported by you. Learn more at heritageradionetwork.org.
This episode is brought to you by Cheese State University. Cheese State University was created for dedicated cheese professionals seeking to deepen their knowledge, sharpen their skills, and build connections. Join them in the Ivy League of cheese education at cheesestateuniversity.com.
Welcome to the Grape Nation, your weekly wine journey. Our guest is Marvina Robinson. We'll talk to Marvina about beef Stuyvesant, champagne, and a lot more. We'll taste some of Marvina's bubbles for our weekly wine sip and maybe during the show. I'm your host, Sam Ben-Ruby. Stay with us for the Grape Nation on the Heritage Radio Network. We bring wine to the people. Bedford-Stuy's own Marvina Robinson left the neighborhood to attend Norfolk State University and HBCU. Her love of the bubbly started when she'd come home between semesters, pop some champagne with her friends to catch up and celebrate. Marvina continued on to Columbia University, receiving her master's, working in finance and risk management. Her love for champagne was strong enough to take some risk. She traveled to France, packed in her career, and started B. Stuyvesant Champagne in Brooklyn. She is one of the few women of color champagne owners in the world. Marvina Robinson makes over a half dozen cuvées, including a rosé and a cuvée reserve. Welcome to the Grape Nation, Marvina.
Thank you for having me.
We are talking to Marvina face-to-face at the Heritage Radio Studios at Roberta's Pizza in Bushwick, Brooklyn. Brooklyn is in the house today.
As always.
Marvina shot over from Bedford-Stuy, so it's nice to sit in person with you. All right, so let's get started here. Let's lay a little foundation.
Let's rock and roll and rock.
Let's give people some intel on where you came from and what you're about. So I'm curious with you and the business and, everything I know about you. What was that first interaction and connection with champagne? And, why did it stick, and did that influence what you're doing today? I mean, is it that or no?
I don't know. That's a really good question. I just think that when I was younger, at a legal age, I want to emphasize at a legal age, me and my friends would sip champagne. That was it. We liked it. It's what we saw in videos. It was cool. I as I got older, a little bit mature, I said, okay, this should be my drink of choice.
So of all the things to drink, beer, booze, you guys had this affinity for champagne.
Oh, we were a group of upscale ladies,
Okay. Upscale and classy.
That's right. We didn't do beer. We minimized liquor. We like to have our glasses.
I love that. So that's the answer to the connection. That's really your first interaction. All right. So now I need you to take me through your journey in life and wine that got you to your business, Be Stuyvesant. But let me set you up a little. Talk about the point that you packed in a pretty impressive education background and about a 2-decade career in finance to create your brand. And we're going to get into
The details later.
and how cold. It's not like, you left and started. So tell me about, the beginnings and getting here.
I would say, one, it was not a traditional route and it wasn't an intentional route. So I would say my journey started out naturally as I graduated. First, I want to say I went to the best high school in Brooklyn, Boys and Girls. So
You left that out.
We left that. That's the first where it all kicked off at. So I'm a kangaroo, class of 95. From there, I started my post-educational where I studied at Norfolk State University. I had a Bachelor of Science in Biology, nowhere near wine. I left, graduated from college. I ended up in finance, just consulting because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I got introduced to the finance world and I said, oh, I like this. Worked there for a couple of years. And then I realized I wanted to be competitive in the industry. So I left work full-time. I studied at Columbia University full-time, got my master's in arts and statistics. But I just didn't stay there for...
Why that? I mean, did that fit into what you wanted to do?
At the time, yeah. So I wanted to build trading models for the trading desk. So I wanted my resume to stand out versus going traditional routes of MBA. I wanted to show my technical component in my mindset. And I did like math, so I chose statistics. And I just didn't stay there just for the minimum requirements. I actually stayed a little bit longer and took classes in different schools just to get like a broader knowledge. From there, I got recruited to work at a major investment bank. Credit Suisse was actually one of my first banks that hired me straight out of grad school. I worked there for a couple of years, moved around a little bit, went from trading. I did a little bit of risk management, went back to commodities. Commodities is one of my favorite products I like to work with. When I first graduated from undergrad, I actually worked at Amaretta Hess Heco in day trading. And then from there, I was back in finance. And champagne was a hobby at first. I used to send my clients gifts, some of my coworkers gifts champagne, include the note of what type of champagne it is.
So as a beverage, that was your beverage of choice?
That was my beverage of choice,
From back to with the girls to working through finance, it was always a thing to you.
Yeah, champagne. So I did go through a phase of my Sex and the City phase where I had to have my Cosmos. But liquor was a little bit too rough for me. You pack those things on, you like in La La Land, and they hit you the next day. But I always think like wine or wine spritzers was really like sophisticated. And I was a little bit younger in my career. So I was really trying to fit in what should be my look when I go out for networking with clients or with my coworkers or holiday parties. And, there's a lot of booze flying around. So I just had to find my niche. And I tried wine, still wine's cool, but champagne, you can never go wrong with champagne. And that's like, everybody's always happy with champagne.
That's, I'm a big champagne fan. I mean, as curious as I am about the story, I love the fact that, your concentration is on champagne. All right, so sounds like a fairly prolific career in finance. I mean, great companies. You jumped around in skills and strengths because you were interested and inquisitive.
Yeah, so like my finance career, it was a great career. I kind of stumbled upon the industry just like how I stumbled upon wine, and I just found my niche. What interested me at the time is kind of where I float around. That's the good thing about finance because it's such a broad industry. You can kind of work on different things. And that's where I found myself. Like, though working on a desk was very great, I kind of got into like the risk management of the side. And wanted to go back to the desk. So I just found skill sets that worked with me, what I knew. And as I grew in my career, I just moved to where I thought would be best fit. Not a jumping around, but taking long depth time to figure out.
So at some point, I don't know how close it was to when you left. Mm-hmm. At some point, you're saying to yourself, or you see something or something gets in your head and you say, all right, I've been doing this. I'm good. I like it. But I got this idea. It's a business. Maybe I should be on my own. Maybe it's champagne. How does that ramp up?
That's not how it went.
Well, that's So my interpretation was a bad one.
It was a
So
bad
give
one.
me the,
But
give me
I
the
loved
real.
I loved how you put the little empathetic voice in there.
So tell me.
So I would say, and this is just my story, I can only share what I became unhappy in finance, and it wasn't nothing wrong with my firms. It was more about myself. I wanted to do something other. So here's the backstory that you might not have known about me is I've owned 2 businesses before I actually officially launched Be Stuyvesant. I just was scared to take the leap of faith of being an entrepreneur 100%. I didn't put my time into it. So I used to own a cafe. Excuse me. No, first I owned an indoor cycling studio because I love to spin. I still love to spin. So I was like, oh, if I build my own, I don't have to pay as much. And I was an instructor as well. Went and got certified. That was one of my first businesses. And then I also owned a cafe on Myrtle Avenue, so we call 724 Coffee Bar and Cafe. Again.
What years are we talking here?
Oh my gosh. Maybe 2000. I started in 2013.
And this is while you're working?
This is while I was working
You're doing
full-time.
these kind of business gigs and you're working full-time. Okay.
So the business it didn't have 100% of my attention, though I tried. Like I would go in the mornings, I would go to, Jetros, all this other stuff. But I wasn't fully dedicated to it. It piqued me, but I was like, I had a career path. Like I had this thing embedded in my head. This is not what I went to school for, blah, 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 blah. But I just said, you know what? It is what it is. So I started looking into champagne because I was gifting people with champagne. It became a hobby. So I started doing a deeper dive, reading about it. And I was like, well, if I'm reading and learning about it, I need to go to Champagne. So I started going to France and I started visiting different areas of Champagne, trying different champagnes at the actual vineyards, just learning to immerse myself in the culture because I wanted to be, make sure I know what I'm talking about versus just a reading knowledge, testing my reading knowledge with actual vineyard owners to make sure they still match. And then, naturally, when you work with a product hand in hand, they're going to give you something that you're not going to get out of a book.
Right.
So that's where it started from. And
so it was more about education and being on the ground and seeing and feeling it.
And applying it. And then I realized, there's so many, not to sound like a AA person, but I love drinking champagne. And I wanted to, I researched and I said, you know what? As I got more in depth with it, and I said, you know what? There's so many beautiful grower champagnes or vintages I would love to introduce consumers to here in New York, here specifically in Brooklyn, because that's where I'm born and raised from. I decided that I was going to open up a champagne bar. And I didn't want anything large or elaborate. I just wanted a nice little cozy spot that have these beautiful bottles that people could come in and taste by the glass if they want to order by the bottle. Because when you go to a lot of restaurants, champagne is not always an option by the glass.
No, now more than ever, but maybe not then.
Definitely not then.
Champagne's hot now.
Yeah, it's hot, but it's also...
As far as the length of the list and the BTG options.
Yeah, and it's expensive by the glass.
Yeah.
You're going to start spending between $21 and $35, $40 a glass. Mm-hmm. I was out a couple of weeks ago, and I spent $40 for a glass.
Jesus.
And I had to make sure, hey, can you fill this up a little bit more? Because, when you tilt it, blah, 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 and, the bubbles reduce. So, I get technical with it. And that's what I wanted to do. I just wanted to have this little venue space where they can come in and say, hey, I want to try this by the glass. And maybe I could have introduced one person to champagne. And they would say, well, maybe I'll come back every week to try a different glass of champagne and keep the actual menu rotating so there's always something new. Or even for some of the bigger houses, introduce some of their vintages.
Sure. So a couple things. So the idea of this champagne bar, mm-hmm. which, you laid out a vision, preceded the idea of developing a brand?
So Be Stuyvesant was going to be the house brand of the bar.
So it kind of coincided?
Be Stuyvesant wasn't really meant to be retail at all. It was only supposed to be...
Like a house brand?
Yep, that's it. Like when you go to any bar, they have the house vodka, gin, whatever. So that's really what Be Stuyvesant was. It really what originally intentionally meant to be sold in stores, sold online.
I get it now. Did any place give you inspiration, as a champagne bar in your travels in New York City and Brooklyn? Like, hey, they do it well, let me kind of steal a few good ideas from, or you had your own vision?
I didn't really visit many champagne bars because there's not a lot of champagne bars. There's wine bars, and then you have some that have a couple of champagne options. But again, when they go to the bar, to the champagne selection, there's usually 1 or 2 glasses by the glass. I think I visited this place back in the day, Flute. It's a
Yes.
champagne
Up in the West 50s.
Yes,
The
and
first one.
And there used to be one in the Flatiron. I think one of them
the
closed.
first one was West 50s, but
And I visited that when I was younger. I don't remember all the details about it, but back then I wasn't especially sold on champagne. But I remember them having an extensive menu. I don't remember if they offered by the glass. And what I wanted to do is 80% of the bottles we have to have an option by the glass.
Right. Which gives you that runway to introduce people.
Mm-hmm.
So we're up to a point where we see how everything's developing. I'm getting a feeling that the time we're running into is around COVID.
Oh, yes.
So I'm assuming, and you have to walk me through, COVID had a major effect on how things played out, what you're doing today, all of that. So boom, you have these ideas, boom, COVID hits. What's the sidetrack? Where you at now? What did it do?
So pre-boom, let's go back one boom. I was already developing, B. Stuyvesant, our first 2 cuvées, which was only our Grand Reserve and our Rosé. I was already like some time in.
Do we have a Grand Reserve here?
We don't have a Grand Reserve.
Okay, what do we have?
We have B. Stuyvesant's Blanc de Blanc, 100% white grape Chardonnay.
What are we drinking for the end of the show?
We're going to drink our Premier Cru to end
All right,
the show.
so open the other one. And
I don't want to touch the mic and I move anything. No, I'm just
Don't worry about it.
He gave me specific instructions.
Don't worry. I said to you we should taste both of them. So I see you have a Coravin on. Do they work well with champagne?
Yes, these are actually...
nobody would know better than you. How many Coravin bottles have you done?
These are one of the best champagne bubble preservers I've ever used. We use them in our tasting room.
So... if anyone doesn't know, Coravin is a device invented by a guy who you use the device to preserve wine, and you stick a needle in the cork. It throws in argon gas, which displaces the oxygen, and your wine doesn't, do that. With champagne, how does this one work?
So this one actually works. You have to use their stoppers.
Right.
You put this on, you close this down like this. Sorry, I'm not really good with visuals. And we have the actual, it's in my other bag too far away. It's a stopper that goes on here. You have cartridges and you suck it up and it takes the air off the bottle to reserve
So
bubbles.
are the cartridges, the argon, the same as the wines?
It's a little bit different, but yeah.
Okay. So there's not a lot of treatments for saving champagne, and you're saying this works well.
This works well for up to 2 weeks. So I
was going to ask you. So 2 weeks is enough for
Yeah.
tastings, market trips and all that.
Or just invite me over and we can sip the bubbles.
Yeah. All right. So we sidetracked for a second because we always want to teach our listeners, some options. Because people may think maybe I can't save a bottle of champagne. And if you're a big champagne drinker, this is a good idea. All right. So what were we talking about?
We're talking about leading up to the pandemic. So
right.
I already had inventory coming in. And I think a year and a half, 2 years before I actually launched, we did our first tasting at the Brooklyn Navy Yard where my headquarters is at now, at Hip Hop Closet, hosted us. The first tasting we ever did in the United States. And what I did is I invited a couple of industry folks out. We set up different stations, blind stations. They didn't know what they were drinking, had cards on there where they can write their feedback. So if everybody
all your stuff.
All B. Stuyvesant,
okay.
Yes. So that they can see, they can be honest with it. And that's what really helped me focus on which 2 I was really going to push for developments, because we had tastings by the bottles. So that's what I worked with. And that's how we came to life. So I ended up getting my first set of inventory, and a couple of people asked me for it, and I was like, oh no, this thing is going to blow over. This thing of the pandemic thinking was going to blow over. Didn't blow over. Wasn't comfortable signing a lease or anything for a space for the champagne bar. And then I actually ended up putting it in stores, and I said, well, if it don't sell, it just don't sell, and I'll just take it back. That's what my mindset was. And graciously, we had our first store that picked it up was Happy Court in Brooklyn on Buffalo. And it actually did amazing. We had like a full news crew out. People were outside lined up. This was not my expectations. And it just took off from there. So I'm very happy.
What year was that?
2020, February 12th, 2020.
Also, right before
Right before everything began to
the
shut
duty
down
hit the fan. Yeah.
in March. Yeah. So I was very happy with the brand. And from there, we just started getting so much, being recognized and, recognized and questioned at the same time. The good always comes with the bad.
Right. One of the interesting things I stumbled on is you built the business from the ground up and you self-funded it.
Yes, I did. So
What
I am still.
that's I mean, if you could do it, it's the greatest. I mean, did you mortgage everything or
No, I just had a stash. You
did have a stash?
I had a stash.
And you said, I'm confident, I'm throwing it in there.
I did not have a business plan. I did not have everything perfectly laid out. I just knew I figured it out along the way. And I think that's what one of my great strengths is as a person is I'm probably not the most traditional person where I have to jot everything down to like A to B to C to D. I'm really good at being hands-on and just figuring it out. And because it was my money that I said, if I lose it, what's going to happen? I'm just going to have to move back home with my mother, be mentally drained for a little bit, too grown to be moving back home. But I just believed in myself. And if I had to take a bet on anything or anybody, it might as well just be me. And I always tell myself, if I still have a great education. A great education and a great career to fall back on.
Right. I mean, perfectly set up to succeed, not fail. But if it's funny, here's my question. How much of a business plan did you start with, or did you wing a good deal of it?
Wing a good deal.
You answered that. Because being in finance, masters, somewhat meticulous, it's funny how you approach certain things, but there's no game plan, for that in that sense. So to this day, no outside investors?
No, to this day.
Is there any craving like to blow up distribution or product if I bring somebody in?
I said that I wanted to create the brand and then have it fully productive before I expand it out. And I think I've done a good job of it. I still have some tweaks to get out. We're not a perfect business. We're a small business, small but efficient and mighty. There's things that happen at last minute where there's certain things I can't control. Like I still have to deal with import issues. Once sometimes things get stuck in customs, those are like my delays. Those pull me away from day-to-day business. Staffing, staffing is a major issue in any industry. Working with that, we opened up our new space last June. So space is built out 85%. So still another 15% to get right with it.
This is the space in the Navy Yard in Brooklyn.
This is the space. You have to stop by.
Yeah, I definitely want to. It's funny how the idea of a champagne bar really blossomed, into a brand. I want to get into the brand and I want to get into, how you selected partners, in France style and all that. Mm-hmm. But I just want to talk to you about a couple things. We discussed off air, and I'm going to bring it up again, that wine's not the most forgiving industry to women mm-hmm. and people of color. Mm-hmm. Actually, it sucks, and it was heavily exposed more during COVID, you know, than ever before, how tough hospitality is and mm-hmm. who it takes a toll on.
Do you mind if I take a sip of my bubbles?
Yeah, we're going to take a sip and talk about it. So, any tough experiences? Were there experiences that were powerful enough that kind of stopped you to say, wait a second, I mean, you don't seem like the type of person that's going to get pushed aside.
No, that's definitely not my personality. I had some comments that were made to me in the beginning. I've had, when I was deciding a vendor to work with, one individual male was like, this is not your thing, you're not French, you're this, so this will never go anywhere. So you're just wasting your time.
Was that veiled being a woman of color or just an outsider? And both?
It was both. It was everything. Like do what you're supposed to do, but this isn't it. I've had, when I first started to, I was on on an online thing on a Zoom, like during the pandemic, and somebody had inboxed me something, and I still have that screenshot. And it wasn't a positive comment. Like it said something to the effect of, good idea, but it's not going to go anywhere. Just understand that you're a woman and you're this, and you have to be able to do this and this and this. Also, because of like you don't have this large amount of funding, you're not going to go far. So I saved his screenshot and I shot him. I was petty Betty for a minute, and I shot him back a really good article. And I was like, we didn't go too far, but we made a cover the style check in the New York Times. So, cheers.
Right, zing to you. Europe is no better. I mean, when you started figuring out, partners and all that, same experiences, worse, same.
Yes, you know what? I've had some interesting experiences. Sometimes people don't take you seriously, or sometimes they want to attempt to dictate to you. Rule number one: don't ever try to dictate to me. That's like the worst thing you can ever do. And I did have to find a partner that I felt good with to work with, as far as like partner with the vineyard, and that probably was one of the hardest things. But once I got going, because you think about it, when you're partnering with the vineyard, it's going to be producing your label. This is your business. You want to make sure that even if you guys disagree, you still know how to resolve the disagreement. Right?
That's a healthy relationship.
Come back to it, right? I don't want to be where I go back and forth in wars and stuff like that. Really didn't work for me. And my vineyard, who actually is woman-led, her and her brother lead it together, but she's the voice, the face. When we started communicating, started out as emails, and I wasn't 100% focused or serious yet.
How do you find this person? Is it an intro? Do you make a list?
I was wandering around properties.
You were literally on the ground.
I was wandering on properties, right. And I remember speaking to her, but I never went into depths with her. But I remember having a conversation with her, and then I didn't go back when I said I was going to go back. I think I was hanging out in Paris, so I didn't go back, and again, wasn't fully focused.
How much time went by?
Oh, before I reached out to her again, probably like 4 months.
Oh, okay.
And
not forever, but.
I sent her an email. She responded. And then I wouldn't respond for 2 weeks because I was working. And I remember I was like gunning for promotion. So I had cut the outside world out. Same questions. And I would go back to, I would ask her the same questions like 3 times. And she never got mad. She never was like sarcastic. She would just answer everything. And then I'm like, this lady is patient, because I would have been told me like, let's per the email I sent on such and such date. So we were just going back and forth, and then I started, focusing in, and I really enjoyed her conversation. So then we started talking on the phone. We started doing FaceTime, we started doing Zoom, and we started getting better. Then the visits started, and I enjoyed working with her, and I still do. And the family's amazing. I visit the vineyard frequently, quarterly, sometimes more than one time in a quarter. And it's just like we all mesh well together.
So you found the right partner, same person to this day, right?
Yes.
So we'll get into where they are and what they're doing in a minute. Let me just finish up on a few thoughts. So you work through the fact that people are dismissive. I mean, just nobody, it just shows you that people, like the story you told about the guy that you sent him, a snap or something. Is that a guy in the industry?
He is in the industry. I don't know.
I mean, where's like the nurturing or the camaraderie?
And then there's that side, but and I feel like I have more positivity from you. It's only like splotches of negativity, but you can also know when people are talking to you, what they think, or like, well, how did you get into this? Like I had a woman in my actual tasting room where she was so combative, like to tell me like champagne can be made anywhere. I'm like, no, it can't be. And then
she had no idea.
No idea. And then when her friends were explaining, she looked at me and was like, well, how did you get into this? And I'm just like, well,
Next.
Thank you.
Next. Do you feel you're making an impact in changing the champagne community a little, the wine community? I can answer that and say yes, little by little. But do you feel that?
I think we are our toughest critics. So I feel like I have a long way to go. I feel like I've introduced this brand to consumers as a Black woman that's not French. That's what I've done.
Oh, that's not a French accent?
No, it's not a French accent.
Okay.
I have one, but it's really bad, so we won't be doing it.
Right. So, a woman of color introduces the brand.
I just feel like my journey is unconventional, and sometimes I still have a hard time believing like I did do this, and I don't look at myself as a role model or anything. Though people I get emails all the time. People look up to me. They have kind words to say, which I love. I just look at as a person that had a dream and follow her dream.
Well, that's the role model part. You know, the fact that you had the idea, you persisted. We talked a few minutes ago. I mean, you did have a business plan, but you didn't have a 10-page line by line. You knew what you wanted to do.
Yes,
You winged
in
it
my
a
head.
little, you know. So, I mean, that's a good story for anybody. Do you feel that you're always going to be tested because you're a woman of color, you're in a European, you know, product, or you don't care and you've gone past that?
I feel like I will always be tested, specifically because B. Stuyvesant is a smaller bespoke product and brand, period. Because instantly, when I do tastings, I always get this from the person, well, why should I buy this over X and X, over a larger house?
But you can get that anywhere for anything.
Yeah, that's
But
what
they're
there's
busting you because it's you
it's that,
more.
right? Or they ask all these detailed questions to make sure I know what I know, so I don't sound like I'm shooting BS.
You're held to.
Yeah. Now the question is, do I care? The answer is no.
Otherwise, you get yourself sick.
Like, I don't care.
Yeah. Well,
So-
that's a good thing to hear. So you manage that, which, you know, is a good thing. All right. We're going to take a quick break.
Okay.
But before we take a quick break, we have one of your champagnes in front of us.
Yes.
So I want you to take a minute and walk me through it, and then we're going to do a little sight taste evaluation. This is the B. Stuyvesant
Blanc de Blancs. So
Okay.
this is 100% white grape. It's aged 24 months. It's light, it's crisp. It's not overly dry. It has a light golden hue to it. Compared to the other cuvées, whether it's the Reserve or the Premier Cru, and we can do this later, you'll see that the Blanc de Blanc is the lightest of all shades.
But you know what? It's not. It's a nice golden hue. It's
It
not a
is.
super light golden hue.
It is. It's not. But once we compare the ladies, you'll see.
Yeah.
Our Blanc de Blanc pairs best well with seafood. I'm a big seafood eater, so like clams, oysters, shrimp. I love this with I love shrimp cocktail. Love it with shrimp cocktail.
Does it go well with any sauce, like a red sauce, or
More like a butter cream sauce? It goes well with.
okay?
Yes. I would say
Because you have to pair to the sauce
yes,
also.
when you have a cream sauce with seafood, you need
This is
something a
great.
little bit heartier. You need to use the rosé.
Right. So the color is this beautiful golden. What do you get on the nose?
So for me, I have like small hints of like faint pears.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a little bit of apricots, but not too much. Very faint. You smell it.
Yeah.
But everybody's nose is a little bit different.
It's not bready or biscuity like
Mm-mm.
other. It's
Brioche shape, that
It's
would-
right. It's fresh.
It's crisp.
It's crisp. It's got fine little bubbles. It's
Yes.
not this big overly bubble thing. Let's open the mouth and throw it over the tongue and tell me if the palate resembles the nose, like some of those apricots or pears, or what else do you get?
You still get the hints of the pears.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get it more in the front of your palate.
Front and mid.
Yeah, going down to the back, it mellows out. You have like a velvety texture in your mouth.
It has a nice mouthfeel to it. All right, so just tell me again what that was. That's the
That
Blanc.
was the Blanc de Blancs.
All right, so we're gonna taste. What are we tasting at the end of the show?
Our Premier Cru.
So we're gonna taste the Premier Cru, and we'll even do a little side by side. We're talking to Marvina Robinson. Marvina is the proprietor of B. Stuyvesant Champagne. When we come back, we're going to talk to Marvina about the actual champagnes, the brand, get into it a little, you know, what she's doing in France. So you're listening to The Grape Nation on the Heritage Radio Network. We'll be right back.
This episode is brought to you by Cheese State University. Cheese State University was created for dedicated cheese professionals seeking to deepen their knowledge, sharpen their skills, and build connections.
It feels like a gift to be able to give this gift to people, because I know that from my own experiences, I know how valuable, consolidated, incredible training resources are.
They offer an in-depth education on all things cheese, as well as an active network for peer support and career development.
you can pop over to the Quad, which is our social networking and engagement app. And so that's a really fun and dynamic aspect of Cheese State University.
Cheese State's 3-part course is designed for seasoned pros and entry-level mongers alike, and covers all the skills one needs to perform on the cheese counter.
The structure of Cheese State University is all based on the Cheese State University Field Guide. And that is a 3-volume resource. It's all digital, online.
At the end of the course, students will be ready to ace the Field Guide assessment and earn their Cheese State Scholar Certificate.
Another resource is a video series where we tackle sort of like these thornier questions that you can get on the cheese counter, like what is rennet, and like why is this cheese so expensive, and can pregnant people even eat cheese?
At Cheese State, you're among experts, you're amongst scholars, you're among cheese lovers, and most importantly, you are a monger. Join them in the Ivy League of cheese education at cheesestateuniversity.com.
All right, we're back. We're back with my guest, Marvina Robinson. Marvina is the Brooklyn Queen of Champagne. I just made that.
I like that.
It's not bad.
That's good. I'm going to get a t-shirt with that.
That's not bad. But you're even better than that. Marvina has launched her own brand of champagne. And we talked about this off air too, when I came across this story, I'm not sure if it was your Instagram or one of the stories that covered you, I delve into it and I said, this is just a great story. I mean, this is a Grape Nation story. It's got all the elements of everything I love. All right, so let's now talk about your B. Stuyvesant champagne.
Yay.
We talked about how you found your partner.
Mm-hmm.
This woman, kind of a grower and all of that. How many different producers did you talk to?
Talk to?
And taste and all of that. And were you turned away, or people didn't get back to you, or you said no because you didn't like the stuff?
I talked to a couple about probably 10 to 12.
Okay.
And some I just felt it wasn't a match based off of personality, right? Like I said earlier, it's like being in a relationship.
You got to live with this person.
Exactly. So it's about you have to mesh with people. Just like when you walk in, when I walked in here, I see I can mesh with you. You're cool. Okay. Jury's still out though.
Oh, wait till we get to the picture thing. The jury will be gone. No, don't go there. All right. So yeah, it's more about, partnership, which is what you have to live with. But tell me about this. So while you're doing this, that's an important thing that's overriding.
Mm-hmm.
I got to work with this. Mostly men, women, split?
Mostly men.
Okay. When you started walking around to these people, did you have a profile or a style? Did you know that, there are some people that just do Blanc de Blanc. There's some people that just do Meunier. Did you articulate to these people?
No, yes and no. I said my pitch was, and I did not have anything written out. I was like, hey, my name is Marvina. I'm a true, champagne enthusiast, giving them some more of my background, let them know that I do know about the industry. And I was like, I want to create a private label. So obviously I know I want it to be champagne, so it's to come from Champagne region. I am looking to produce, initially I was like, I'm looking to produce, 2 signature cuvées. Obviously one is a rosé, and then I want to work with a traditional brut.
So that sense you had, you wanted to get out of the chute with those two at least.
Yes, because I felt, again, remember, this was supposed to be the house brand of the champagne bar. So remember that part. And that's what I was really focused on, because this started way before COVID. I just launched in COVID because I'm like, I'm not going to sit on this inventory. We're just going to deal with it. So we started with that, and I wasn't interested in the Blanc de Blanc at first. And I was like, I just want a traditional brew. I want a rosé because, those are the 2 most common that I thought was common at the time. So let's say that.
Right.
Because now I'm more experienced, more in depth. I'm all over the place with my palate. Fun fact about me is I don't bring B. Stuyvesant home.
What does that mean?
I try different champagnes almost every week. Again, not to sound like an AA, but I like to keep my palate fresh. I like to be an SME when it comes.
So you're tasting everything to get inspiration, see what people are doing, how it works.
Inspiration, and then when people come to me for suggestions or recommendations, because I want
Go
to
beyond
be
your
the
house
SME.
too. Yeah.
Yes, I want to be an SME. I am an SME of Champagne, so I want to be able to give great recommendations. And I don't want to always recommend be Stuyvesant. Like we could do a tasting with Blanc de Blancs, and I can give you 4 different Blanc de Blancs I want to taste along with be Stuyvesant, so you can see how side by side what the different tastes like. Because again, every house has their own recipe. Right. So you want to begin to see what meshes with your palate.
So stop there for a second. You talked about opening a champagne bar.
Mm-hmm.
That's done. You now have an office with an event and tasting space.
I didn't say it was done.
Okay.
I didn't say it was done.
Okay, so that could happen, but you do have
that is going to happen.
Okay, so I love hearing that, and you do have a space where you can, highlight tastings and events at the office.
Yep, we have a.
So for now, you could do all of that.
So we have a 2,000 square foot tasting room. That's our headquarters and tasting room combined. So our space is really functional. I'm glad.
If I'm a corporate guy, can I do like a thing there?
Yep.
Like a morale builder, a tasting, a little party, all that stuff
We do all of that. We've housed different corporate events. We've housed more intimate tastings. We've even bring in a chef, and we have an intimate full dinner with each course paired with the champagne, and the chef cooks on premises.
Nice. So there's that, and stay tuned for maybe a champagne bar. All right, so the champagne, we've said this 5 times, but champagne can't be champagne unless it's produced in Champagne. That's why Marvina kept going back and forth. And you don't even talk about it while you were working. I mean, you literally left like on a Friday or Saturday morning and came back Sunday, so it wouldn't interfere.
I actually would leave on a Friday evening. I would catch the express bus from Vanderbilt and 46th Street across from Grand Central. I would catch that 4:00 bus
to the airport.
I would catch the 6:40 flight. Used to fly Delta, get me in at like 6 something in the morning. I at that time I wouldn't check any baggage, so I wouldn't waste any time to get to my hotel. Get to my hotel early, check in, shower, change, get something to eat, get over to Gardaland, and I would take the train out to the region, and then I would do the same thing again. And I would get in Monday morning. And before I joined Equinox just for the fact so I can shower.
Right, the best locker room.
Yes, there. And then my office was right across the street.
So you were hustling your butt off.
I was hustling.
All right. So you made these trips to Champagne. You wound up in Epernay, which is a region of Champagne, specifically in the Marne Valley. Mm-hmm. This is where that woman producer is.
Yes, the family, yes. But
let's talk about what's there. I mean, my understanding is they have different plots, 6 different plots. Mm-hmm. Does that offer you different exposures, soils?
Yeah, so for us, we produce mainly with Chardonnay,
the 3 Champagne
Meunier,
blending grapes,
and Pinot Noir, and that's where the plots go across, right?
But that valley is really known for Pinot Meunier too.
Depending on what side of the valley, because also remember the soil.
Okay, so you have your exposure and access to the 3 great grapes.
Exactly.
And we just drank a Blanc de Blanc.
Yes, and we have access also to like a Premier Cru plot as well. So yes, we have access to all.
Was that one of the attractions of why this would be a good partner?
No, I wasn't even thinking about that. Because remember, when I first started, I wasn't really expanding.
It was a match with the right person.
Yeah, I just wanted 2 cuvées.
But isn't that fortuitous it worked out that way?
That's exactly, because I wasn't thinking about having a Blanc de Blanc, a Premier Cru to the level we are today. I was more interested in, hey, I want to be able to produce these. I want different size bottles for these 2 cuvées. And the brand expanded, even though COVID was a monster, it came as a blessing to me because it kind of, giving me insight on how my business transformed to where it's at today.
It gave you that pause or something.
Yeah, because I have to, even though we may want A, circumstances say, nah, you're going to get G. And G is what's working for me. G opened my mindset to see what I need to do. It forced me to pivot. And that's what's important. As an entrepreneur, you have to be able to pivot under circumstances. You can't just say, hey, I'm stuck with A, B, and C. If I would have went off of my business plan, I would have deviated already, or the business plan would have been null and void.
Listen, I think that's what it's all about. What I'm curious about, and it shouldn't sound like a mean question or whatever, but isn't it obvious how little you knew going in compared to what you know now and what was available?
Oh, I
As
was
far as grapes, blending, regions, soils. I mean, you're good at that now. That first pass,
I thought I knew a lot going in.
right? Because you said you read and educated and
But
embedded.
now, like for me, I'm very hands on. I do visit the region a lot. Like I love my vineyard. It's great. I also visit other vineyards because I just like to know different things. And it's just so enlightening about the whole champagne industry. And sometimes people think that you get so much from a reading knowledge. You don't get the true
Right.
experience. You have to
You said
immerse
that.
yourself in the culture, be there and understanding what goes on because just like when there was like global warming affects the actual crops. So guess what, harvest season
Planting,
varies.
picking,
Exactly.
all that.
Have to if there's
Ripening,
frost within the
which has been an
crops.
issue in the
Yes,
past
you
few
got to
years.
manually heat it up. So
Yep.
and that also goes behind to the cost of champagne. Like all of these adds up why champagne is more expensive than a prosecco or anything else related to sparkling. It's a very manual intense wine to create, so hence the price point behind it.
Yeah, we're not going to get into how it's made, but it is the riddling,
Yes.
the second fermentation, blowing the frozen cap out. It's crazy, what's going on there. All right, so let's talk about the different bottlings. You make 6 or 7 different champagnes, more or less.
We have a portfolio of 8 right now.
Okay.
And we have 3
Are
more.
8 available all the time, or that
No,
depends?
so there's 2 limited editions, which is our heritage, which everybody has been asking for to come back, and it's coming.
So that was limited in the bottle. Why did you limit it?
Because I didn't. You want to know honestly why?
Yeah,
Because it
that's
goes
why I
to
asked.
it goes to financing. Like, do I want to put everything here to produce year round?
I got it.
So
You
for
gotta pick your
me,
spots.
I take Heritage and our Prestige Rosé are our limited edition bottles.
What's limited to you? Like, are you making a couple hundred cases, less,
So
more?
no, we produce our Prestige Rosé. We max out at 800 a year versus all the others are like 3 times that.
800 cases?
800 bottles.
Bottles.
For the Prestige Rosé.
So it's really a small
So
limited run.
Because you think about it, for me, we have a portfolio of 8. Everything doesn't, in my opinion, or how I decide, everything doesn't need to be fully year round. Certain people, like we have a traditional rosé, which is year round. Our Prestige Rosé.
Is that one of the main champagnes in the lineup? That
Our
rosé?
traditional rosé, yes.
Right.
Our Prestige Rosé, consumers love it. When it's like right now, we're sold out, and we're sold out earlier than I anticipated. So, not for 2024, but going to 2025, we've already increased production for the Prestige Rosé.
Okay. And then what's the other?
Heritage, it's actually one of our other Baruts. That's actually an 80% Meunier grape and a 20% Pinot Noir.
No Chard?
No Chardonnay.
Wow.
And that actually...
What's the profile there? Is it rich? Color a little darker?
Color is definitely a little darker. It's aged for 36 months. So it's actually...
Aged longer?
Yeah.
Sounds beautiful.
Our reserve is compared to our heritage. The heritage just has a slightly different tasting profile. 80% for the reserve is also heavy on the Meunier grape, which is why we don't have both of them year round. So I chose the heritage to be the ones that dip in and dip out. Right. So we didn't actually really produce it for 2022, but for 2023 for the holiday season, it will be back in.
Did you always envision multiple cuvées so that the line could appeal to a broad taste?
Initially, no. But when I realized this is the business, I knew yes, because for a B Stuyvesant to be an actual champagne company, in my opinion, I want to be able to appeal to numerous palates, right? Rosé, we have Reserve as our traditional go-tos. But for example, if you want to get more intricate, we're going to come to the Blanc de Blanc so that we can pair with seafood. We're going to come to our Premier Cruise. We're going to come to our demi-secs. Though I'm not a sweet drinker, you still have to have like a demi-sec for those who want to enjoy champagne but have a little bit more dosage on it. All of that is what comes into play for that. So I wanted to be able to produce a full portfolio. We have 3 cuvées waiting to come into the portfolio for 2023, 24. And that's where I actually get like my vision on. We also produce different bottle sizes where we produce half bottles, full size standard bottles. We produce magnums, we produce gyro bombs. So all that's important because all of that comes into play to the different potential client
Right.
slash consumer. Yeah.
Right. For a small company, it's a smart move, to appeal to everyone. Um, Tell me a couple things about farming and winemaking. Your champagne partner owns their property, right?
It is more like an 8-year generational um, house. So it's been in the family for years.
The place you have your champagne made.
Yes, my
Okay.
vineyard, yes.
And the family makes the wine?
Yes, so everything is so it's growers house. The grapes are on their property. They own a process from front to end. Only time any outside people are boarding is during harvest season,
Okay.
where they bring in pickers to come in to help
Right.
pick because you only have a short time, and there's only one head winemaker in the house, which is our a family member of the house, and that's it. It's closed circuit year round. It's just
Do you interact as far as
Oh.
direction and style? And I mean, you put a lot of faith into this person, but you do input?
I don't. We already discussed our taste and profiles. Like he's the expert, right?
Okay.
But what I do like about him is that we talk in depth. Like when I'm there, we sit, we taste, we set what to look for. So that's very important for me. So it's a very hands-on approach.
Nice.
I try to be as hands-on as possible. I'm not the person where I'm hands off. I want to be in the crops, in the fields. We need help pushing bottles around. We need help stacking. We need help when we get, so now riddling isn't done by hand, it's done by a major machine now.
Right.
Let's get that done. Do we need help packing these boxes? Like I'm all over the place.
What about things like sustainability? As far as taking sustainability, as the next step. I mean, are they farming thoughtfully?
Oh, 100%.
Are they winemaking thoughtfully? They're not intervening.
So
Talk me through that.
Everything is 100%. So there's no pesticides used on
Nice.
the crops. We talked about going like organic, but that's a whole nother process. We're not ready for that stage yet. But
You practice a lot of it, but you're not certified or there
we're
yet.
not certified there. So there's no pesticides, there's no animals or anything on there. We're limiting, we don't use any styrofoam on properties.
Okay.
So we're just getting better in that.
Is that important to you?
It is important to me because it affects our overall industry and overall liveliness. So all of that is important. I'm a person, I don't eat beef or pork. So I don't want to make sure that certain animals are not included in the process. So one of the things when I first started out, people was like, is this vegan? Is this organic? So I can't officially label it as vegan. I put vegan friendly because to be a vegan product, it has to be registered within the states, and between U.S. and France, there's different.
But is there no vegan?
There's no.
I mean, it's vegan. It's just not. Listen, there are a lot of practitioners that don't have the certification because they can't afford it, or it's too much of a process, or they don't give a crap.
It is a huge process, but there's no animals or anything included in that process. So that's why we label it as vegan friendly. Because legally, you have to be registered through the vegan overall.
Right.
We haven't gone through that process, so I just withstand that, and I just make sure I put vegan friendly. And I explain very detailed process.
Right. You're not in the minority in practicing it that way.
Yes, exactly.
There are people who practice the right things but don't necessarily get themselves certified. Are there any other things you want to add to the lineup? Like, do you... We talked about up to 8 different,
So we have 3 new cuvées coming in.
3 on top of the 8?
Yes, 3 on top of the 8. Remember, 2 is still
limited edition.
Yeah. We have another one where it's ready. I just have to finish some things on my end. It will probably be a limited edition. Well, it will be one of our top sellers. What I like to add on, this past holiday season was the first time we did 187s. though we will not produce 187s year
What is
round.
that, like a split?
The split, the most
Okay.
small ones. 187s are very expensive to make. So we use it for a holiday, but we're going to do it one more time. Where for this holiday season it'll be with the rosé, and probably we did the Blanc de Blanc. We're one of the few houses to have a Blanc de Blanc in a 187
Oh,
split.
really?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that.
That we have some things on the U.S. states where we're implementing some visuals in our office so that people can come in to try something new.
Nice.
Working on some meta items to put us in the 3D world. That probably will take me to 2025 to complete, but we're starting it. So those are little things. I try to be more innovative and create an experience for consumers because champagne is patented. So when people come or consumers come to taste Beast Stuyvesant, I want them to get the full experience of Beast Stuyvesant, but also introduce them to another concept or something that they haven't been exposed
Right.
to get a full 360 experience.
So to that point, I want you to sort of evangelize. I want you to tell people why they shouldn't just drink and perceive champagne as celebratory. Why it's just such a great, you and I call it wine too.
Mm-hmm.
Why it's just such a great wine beyond what people box it in as.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, to clear up the mythologies, champagne is a wine. It's just a type of wine, right?
Yeah, it's made with wine.
Exactly, right? It starts off as a still process, and then during the second fermentation comes into the sparkling aspect. So, and I agree with you 100%. Champagne is just not meant for celebratory. Champagne can be enjoyed with every portion of your meal, whether you're starting with an appetizer, a salad, full entree,
So
down to dinner.
it's uber food friendly.
It's uber food
That's
friendly.
number one.
It's uber food friendly. I think people get confused with the bubbles or say, oh, it's going to give me a headache. Sometimes it just might be psychological, or maybe you didn't find the right champagne for you or for your body or style. Dessert, which is sugar, plays an important role of it. You have a brut, then you have an extra brut.
Right, you can buy ones that
you just
have a higher sugar if you like sweet, or if not, lower.
A less one. You just have to find different cuvées that work for you. And sometimes it's more about reading the actual tasting profiles, but also remember everybody's palate is unique and different. Or you can start off with one house and maybe go through their portfolio from the different selections they have and then see what you like from there. And then from there, say, hey, I like this one. So when you go out to shop different champagnes, these are the tasting profile I like. What can you recommend for me?
Bingo. If you know what you want and you can articulate it, and you have a good wine shop where the guy curates, guy or woman, then, oh man, look at this wall.
Exactly.
You want sweeter, less sweeter, and all that. Yeah, I think people, I tell this over and over on the show. I've been collecting wine for years, so all my friends defer to me when we go out.
Oh,
I won't let them bring wine because I don't want to drink crappy wine. So I always used to bring a white and a red. Now, basically, I bring a champagne and a red. And people go, why'd you bring champagne?
Because.
And then at the end, they're like, this is awesome. Now
champagne is always the answer for everything.
Now I have friends that, they do the same thing. I've asked this question before, too. Best temperature, best glasses.
Tulip-shaped glasses.
Tulip, not flutes?
No, flutes is Spanx for champagne.
Yes. You want more of a explain.
You need to open it.
Why?
You need your wines open because bubbles actually have a tasting profile in them. It has aroma, taste. So you want the wine to open up fully. With the flutes, it's going to be very slender. So you need it to open up a little bit and then tape over the top so it doesn't get flat or go cold too fast. Average 45 to 47 degrees is the best temperature for champagne.
That's coolish.
Yes.
45. So you're more on the coolish one.
Yes.
I don't mind, room temperature because I think the flavors come out, but that's not a popular thing.
Well,
people will say, "Oh, this is warm."
What happens is, so for me, I love my first sip to be crisp, but I'm not gulping. So as soon as you open up the bottle or pour it out, it's automatically going to heat up. So by time, if I'm talking and sipping, sometimes 15 minutes, it might be too hot for me. So that's why I go a little bit cooler because as soon as you open up, it's going to automatically warm up.
I like that. So please, people, get that old champagne flute notion out of
Right.
your head.
Or drink out of a traditional white wine glass.
Yeah, which is fine, you know. All right, we do a thing called the wine list
Mm-hmm.
where I ask my guests 5 questions.
Uh-oh.
Same 5 questions to everyone.
I should have listened to the show before.
You should have. Be spontaneous
Mm-hmm.
and answer them best as you can.
Okay.
First question. What are you drinking now?
In my house,
What's in your fridge?
in my fridge is nothing but water. Water and a bottle of sparkling water. Now, what's in my wine fridge?
Yeah, but you said you're tasting other champagnes.
Oh, yes. I have,
But are you tasting, you kind of talk through that. Are you tasting other things?
Yeah, I'm tasting a lot.
Are there wines,
they're just-
beers?
No, so I don't. Oh, so here's a fun fact. I don't drink liquor, period. I do not drink beer. It's very rare you catch me with a still wine. So I have, in my wine fridge, I have 98% champagne. I probably have 2 or 3 still wines. I have this bottle of wine, red wine. It's valued at like $600. It was a gift.
What is it?
I don't know. I don't
Okay.
drink. It's a red wine from Burgundy.
So you're a champagne drinker.
Yeah, so I have it out of respect. 2 bottles that were given to me. One I purchased a mile back where I'm trying to get into, but I haven't mastered it yet.
It's a big wine, a Malbec.
It is. So I
go from champagne to Malbec. It's like, ooh.
I have to take my time with that. I have a lot. So I have my go-to favorites. Marc Hebrat is one of my favorites.
Hebrat.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So that's one of your faves. Give me 1 or 2 more.
Billy Cart's one of my favorites.
Okay.
I have another favorite brand, but I cannot remember the brand. I just went blank. But I also like Louis Roederer, but the Premier Cru, not the 242 or the 243. Okay. Those are all in my fridge.
Those are relatively new, though.
Yeah. And then I had another brand last night. I think it's
those are good ones.
Gonet.
Pierre Gonet.
Yes.
Gonet.
Yes. I was actually Googling it this morning because I wanted to get
grower producer.
I was trying to find some other bottles.
All right, so I didn't mention this, but we post your answers because people love to hear, what you're drinking.
And then I got B. Stuyvesant, of course.
Of course. Well, we know that. Second question: favorite wine and food pairing. What you like? Not what's perfect.
No. I already know what I like. I love a charbroiled oyster.
Okay.
And give me a Blanc de Blanc.
Like on a grill?
On a grill, yes. I just came back from Charleston Fool and Wine.
Do you put anything on the oyster?
Whatever. I don't cook it myself. I've had it, and sometimes there's different bread stuffings.
Okay.
Different, whatever it is.
But a grilled oyster with Blanc de Blanc.
Char grills, yes. It has to be char grills. I don't want anything with no gas grills. Char grills.
Right. You pick up a little of that smoke.
Yes, that's the smokiness to it.
All right. We have 3 more questions, but we're going to deviate for a moment. The deviation is, if we can knock it out quickly, 5 of the best or greatest foods to eat with champagne.
Fried chicken.
So that's one of my faves.
Mm-hmm.
1.
Fried chicken, French fries.
2.
What else I love? Anything. I love a pasta truffle.
Pasta with truffle.
Yes, and then naturally pizza goes well.
Pizza's awesome. Give me one more. Give me
shrimp cocktail.
Shrimp cocktail, yes. Like you said, with not a red sauce.
No, shrimp cocktail just straight. The shrimp cocktail with the sauce, lemons. If it's a pasta dish with a truffle, if it's heavy creamy, got to go with the rosé with it.
There you go. All right. Favorite wine restaurant and or bar? We might as well stay local. Brooklyn, New York City, or any place that impresses you. And let's focus towards champagne. You walk into a place, they have a list. We talked about how important buy the glass is, the vibe of a place, the people that are knowledgeable, the list. Who's doing that?
So I have, there's 2 places I like. 2 is one I remember, but let me get it right. So take a swig.
If you describe the one you don't know, I could probably guess.
No, one is actually not in New York, but I still have to give it its props because I enjoyed myself.
Is it in France or?
No, it's actually in Charleston, South Carolina. I just came back from there. So
Graft?
No,
Tippling House.
There it is. So Graff and Tippling House, they both have excellent options for champagne. So I went to Tippling House. On our first night of the open night of Charleston, they had the Rosé Marc Hebrat, and I was just drawn to
So
it.
that's Matthew Conway, who was
Yes.
a New York GM and sommelier,
Yes.
big champagne fan,
Mhm.
big Rhone fan. Went down there during COVID, never left, and opened his dream wine bar.
And it's amazing. And
Femio has Graft open
yes,
before
Femi,
Matthew,
yes.
and stuff on the wall. You
Mhm.
buy it and just pay a little uptick and drink it at the bar.
Yep, we
Great.
paid it. We were there. We like
Great champagne list.
Yeah, Femi and I, we met last year in 2022, and Matthew in 2022. So last year I didn't go to Tippling. This year I did, and we had an amazing, amazing night. So those are my first two. Here in New York,
Those are great ones.
yeah, here in New York, so there's not a lot of restaurant bars that actually have like
Or
champagne.
bars, or
So it's a restaurant, Evelina's, which is actually on DeKalb Avenue.
wow, that's a new one.
Yeah.
See, that's why I do this.
I like-
Evelina's,
Yes,
Evelina's.
Yeah, I hope that's the right
On
name.
DeKalb, I'll fact check that.
Yeah, I think
What's good about it?
they have a good sparkling option.
Okay.
They have a good
Beyond champagne, sparklers.
So they have a good prosecco on their menu, but they also have Billy Cart.
you
on
love
the-
that.
Billy Cart Brut on their menu. So those are the two I like.
Those are good.
Who else do I normally go around to? So for me, it really depends on your menu. So I'm picky when I go out because I like to make sure if I'm out, the rare times I come out, that there's something for me to drink on the menu. So I look at the actual menus, or if they have a corkage fee, I'll pay the corkage fee to bring a bottle.
Great. All right. That's our third question. Fourth question is favorite all-time wine. When I originally structured the question, I wanted to find out the rarest, most expensive wine Marvina drank in her, travels. I don't care about that anymore.
Okay.
What I care about is what's that wine, and it's probably a champagne, that had the biggest effect on you? Was it gateway, opened up, the way you think about it, affected, just how you move forward, had that impact on you? What's that? It could be one or two.
What's the brand, or what's the effect for me, or what's the
What's the wine? Who was it? And then
what
we'll talk
wine
about.
Was it for me?
Like people say, I had a Burgundy because I never had Burgundy.
Well,
in
one is
real
a
life.
champagne, number one.
Okay. Do you remember which? When?
One, it's a story behind this one. So I just discovered the champagne last year. I was driving, coming in from Jersey, and for whatever reason, my car, her name is Wilma, had an issue or had an attitude, and she broke down, right? For some reason, so I was stuck on the side of the turnpike. I pulled into the gas station. So I called a tow truck, and I'm like, all right, well, let me just walk around. So there's a wine shop. There's a liquor store over there. So I walked in there, and I went, and I said, let me just get some bottles. So I went and bought this half a bottle of champagne. And I went back to my car, put my key in, and the car started right away. So I'm like, what in the hootenanny? So then I go home, and I waited a week to drink this champagne. And when I tasted it, I was like, holy bleep, 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 bleep. It was so good.
What was it?
I cannot. That's the one that's drawing the blank on. I think I have it in my phone.
All right, so if you don't answer it now, you and I will talk off air, and
Yeah.
I will post it. But if the car didn't start, were you going to crack that and drink it sitting in the car? You don't know? It's not kind of not legal.
I had a cold one and I had a hot one, so
Okay.
I was gonna like.
All right, so that's a good.
I think Wilma broke down because she wanted me to figure out the champagne. And then here's
she steered you to champagne.
Yeah. So then the fun fact is, when I went back to France, I went to find the champagne there. I visited their vineyard, and I learned about it. And then I would say this one, Canard Duchesne 2014 vintage. Definitely.
Wait, we got to spell this out. Canard, Canard?
Yeah, Canard.
Du.
Duchene 2014 vintage.
Duchesne.
Yes.
Duchesne. And what is
Duchesne.
that?
Their vintage. It was amazing. So I visited. I did a.
Wait, is that champagne?
It's champagne.
Okay.
Yeah. So that I did a master champagne class with him. Oh my gosh, probably in 2014. It came to New York, and that's when I was opening the champagne bar, and they invited me, and they like. Now this is an experience that opened my eyes because we went through his whole portfolio. It was just beautiful and
nice.
It was amazing. And then they invited me to their venue when I got to France. I went there one-on-one tour their whole property. And then that's when I learned how to separage actual bottle.
Did you get it on the first strike?
And I got it on the second strike.
Okay, that's pretty good.
But now I get it on the first strike. And we went through the tastings, and I fell in love with their 2014 vintage. And I just went back there last year.
So that's memorable to you.
Very memorable. Very memorable.
That's the answer to the question. Yeah. So we'll post those two. Final question. And I ask everyone this, and this may be the toughest.
Uh-oh.
I'm looking for you to recommend the best wines around 15, 20, 22 bucks. I'm looking for a red and a white. If you want to stay within the sparkling world, you could throw in sparklers. It's funny how there's some great sparklers in that price range, and people very rarely answer that question with that.
There is a really good Prosecco. It's probably one of the...
So let's start with Prosecco.
It's the top of the line, and I know the bottle is probably about 15. So I am going to Google this.
All right, so that's white.
Yes.
If you had to give me
you know what's a red sparkler? Bed Vine Sparkling Lambrusco. I love it.
Bed Vine?
Bed Vine is actually a store
in Bed-Stuy?
In Bed-Stuy on Tompkins.
They have a house-made?
They have a house-made.
Bed Vine Lambrusco.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go two ways with that. I love the fact that you recommended that. I love the fact that a local guy's making it. But I love Lambrusco as a great value red.
Mm-hmm.
As a sparkler.
It's good, and it's very rare that I drink it, but drink something outside of that. So Cafurlan, Cafurlan, is one of
that's the Prosecco?
Yeah, that's the Prosecco, and it's only $12.
Man, you nailed it on that. Okay, so it's two words, Cafurlan. I got it. I'm going to post that, like I said. All right, so that is Marvina's wine list. 5 questions, great answers, knocked it out of the park. My compliments to you for somebody who didn't listen to the feature in advance. All right.
That's a good thing. So
I love that. It's more spontaneous. So it puts you on the edge of your seat.
So here's when I don't fully prepare for interviews because I feel like I just speak my truth because that's all it is. I'm just living my truth.
So the story about you is the story.
Exactly.
And it's you.
Yes.
So however, you may do a similar interview and other things may come up or you may add a perspective. That's great. But it's always going to point to the same thing.
Exactly.
Your passion, how you got there, all that
Everybody
stuff.
has a different perspective.
Right. We end the show every week with a feature called the Weekly Wine Sip. Perfect opportunity for a winemaker to bring in their wine and talk about it. We actually did a sneak peek of it by tasting the Blanc de Blanc. So this week we're going to taste what? And then tell me a little about it.
We're going to taste the Premier Cru.
Come on, let's get it going.
Premier Cru is a little bit opposite of the Blanc de Blancs.
Okay, what's the blend?
So it's a traditional blend of all 3 grapes. So it's on Pinot Noir, Chardonnay.
Do you know the percentage?
Yep. So it's actually, oops.
All right.
Okay, cool. So it's actually 50% Pinot Noir, 40% Pinot.
Meunier?
No, Chardonnay, and then 10%.
Oh, it's a fairly traditional blend. Be careful. Oops.
This chair's so low.
I know, and they have arms.
Now, what I love about the Premier Cru, like my favorite apple is Granny Smith apples. So you definitely get a tasting and an aroma of Granny Smith
You
apples.
could differentiate of all apples, Granny Smith, and it's in here?
Yes.
On the nose and the palate?
Nose and the palate.
All right, so let's do the standard thing. Color.
This is, wait, so I have Blanc de Blanc in my glass. Do you see the difference in the colors?
Yeah, this is deeper and maybe, I wouldn't say orange, but there's a hue to it.
Yes. This is
a little deep. Yeah, it's a deeper golden. All right, so that's the color. Give me your nose descriptors. What happened?
This is still Blanc de Blanc.
Just dump it in there. I actually drank my other one, so it was empty. I should have brought 2 glasses. My bad. Do a rinse.
I just put the champagne in there. So
there you go.
Okay, so this is. So I can tell you off the fact that I'm already going to smell.
So what do you get on the palate? I mean, on the nose?
Definitely Granny Smith apples. You have something a hint smell of honey, but when you do your tasting, you're gonna have Granny Smith in the front, and you're gonna have pear and honey more in the back, and then it's gonna succulent off.
Mouthfeel is rich.
Yes, and
It's a rich,
it's more in depth, so it has more complexity to it than the Blanc de Blanc.
On the palate, unlike the other one, I do pick up that biscuity.
Yes.
It's non-existent in the other one, which is refreshing and fresh.
And that's why this is
the Blanc de Blanc classic.
The Blanc de Blanc is aged 24 months. This is actually aged 48 months.
So that gives it that character too.
Mm-hmm.
48 months, Jesus. All right, so palate. What do you get on the palate? And again, does it replicate the nose?
It semi-replicates the nose. So
anything not in the palate or new to the palate?
So for me, I've had this 50 million times. So I always want to taste it again, but I already know, like, label-wise. But like, I still get hints of the apple, Granny Smith apple. I get hints of honey.
Yeah. The honey's not cloying though; it's just kind of lays on top.
You have it mixed in with pears.
And then you have that, biscuity. Tell me food pairings for this.
Oh, this one I love grilled chicken breasts, sauteed in light olive oil.
So it could take the grilling.
Yes.
It could take the
on top
oil.
Of the stove, yes. Very light.
What about barbecue grilling?
Barbecue grill, I go with rosé.
Okay.
I will always do rosé for grilling.
Okay. Good point to make there. So tick off to me again exactly what this bottling is.
This is our Premier Cru.
Okay, so it's the B. Stuyvesant
Premier
Cru.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so we tasted 2 wines. In addition to the wine list answers, I will post the wines.
Yes.
All right, I got to do a quick wrap up. We've spent way too much time together. You've had too much fun with me.
I'll just leave right away.
You ain't leaving. It's picture time. All right. So if you have a question, suggestion, wine happening, or event, hit me up at samatthegrapenation.com. That's samatthegrapenation.com. Subscribe to the Grape Nation podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you get your pods. Leave a review if you like the podcast. The reason we ask you to subscribe is by subscribing, podcast pops up automatically. You don't have to search for it. You're reminded. There's Marvina sitting right there ready to talk to you. Follow us on Instagram at SBenRuby, on Twitter at BenRuby. I know a little confusing, but you can reach us on both with the hashtag #TheGrapeNation. On Facebook, we are The Grape Nation. As I mentioned, we'll post Marvina's wine list answers and weekly wine sip choices selections on our social media. All right, Marvina, now I need some download. Where can we find more information in a general sense on B. Stuyvesant?
The best place would be our website, which is www.stuyvesantchampagne.com. And if we still...
No B?
Huh?
No B.
No B.
Okay.
StuyvesantChampagne.com. And if you don't get the question there, we have 2 links. Either contact us, or there's a link that says email us, and we revert back all emails within 24 hours.
Okay. So that'll get you, I've been on the site a million times. It'll show you bottle shots, descriptions of the wines. It'll talk about, Marvina and everything. If we want to follow you and the brand on social media, where do we go?
So Business Stuyvesant Champagne is both our Instagram and Facebook.
Okay.
Myself personally, which I post more about my personal life, like having fun with my friends, stuff like that, and different wines, is Marvina_Robinson.
Okay.
And Twitter, to be honest, I do not remember. We are not as active on Twitter.
So Instagram's your wheelhouse.
Yes, Instagram and Facebook, yes.
For a lot of people and all that. What about distribution? Talk to me about restaurants, stores,
really
the
excited.
net of reach. Are we out of state yet? Or
we're
give me a little intel on that.
We're definitely on the West Coast.
Okay.
We just landed we just got onboarding to a major restaurant, Having Mar by
Marcus Samuelson.
Yeah, Marcus Samuelson. So they're picking up our Blanc de Blancs. We have a host of stores in the Brooklyn area, New York. Let me see if I can remember them offhand. Happy Cork, Bed Vine, Green Grape, Harlem Wine Gallery, Veneteria Restaurants.
So you're locally fairly well distributed
Yeah.
and working on more and more and more.
Yeah, working on more, and we're focusing on onboarding in the DMV area. So
Okay.
that's up next. We were in a hotel before, or we changed distributors, so now we're relaunching, which I'm focused on when I'm down there next week.
So the good news is you're going to see more.
The good news is also, like, we ship to 48 states. So we have an e-commerce store.
So on the website,
Yep.
if you want to buy, I mean, that's the easiest step
Yeah,
for
you
anybody.
go to our shop tab.
I was just wondering how many states and, liquors
Oh,
tough
yeah, we
online,
can-
but you're pretty well covered.
Yes.
What are the 2 states that you can't?
Hawaii and I think it's Wyoming.
Okay. You do Alaska?
We do Alaska. Alaska
Interesting.
has express shipping though.
Okay. All right. So you got all the intel. We've tasted through the wines. I highly recommend them. I praise and admire what you're doing there.
Thank you.
It's wonderful, and I only wish you continued success. I want to thank our guest, Marvina Robinson. Marvina is B. Stuyvesant Champagne. Thank you to our engineer, Armin, and everyone at the Heritage Radio Network. I'm Sam Ben Ruby, and you've been listening to The Grape Nation. The Grape Nation is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. Keep in touch at heritageradionetwork.org/subscribe.